what comes next after you plant the seed? What comes next?
You water it?
Yes, Anthony. You water. I like it. I'm going to water. Yeah, that's good. You water. You water your garden. And the watering is the rehearsals. That's where the crux of the growth comes from, right? Now, when you're giving rehearsals, there are so many different ways, and I'm not about to tell you which one is right and which one is wrong for as far as directing, because Dean might say, this is how I want the scene, don't change one thing. You move here on this line, you pick up this glass on that line, you walk back on this line, and you sit down. I don't want any, right? And then, Jay might say, all right, well, here's what I want you to do. As long as you get over here by this line, you can do whatever you want. As long as you're here and sitting down by that line, okay? So one is what the director wants and how he really sees it and feels strong about. And one is like, well, this is what I want, but I want to see what the actor brings to it. And if either one's okay, I mean, I kind of work with both, honestly. I kind of like have this is what I want. But if the actor comes to me and says, oh, can I try it like this? I'll say, sure. I'll look at that. I'll check it out. But, I don't tell them if I like it or not until after I'm done. I go, well, you know what? I did like that. Okay, let's try that. You might be surprised. Okay? But, like I said, there's different ways of directing your actors. Okay? And you all know about upstage, downstage, stage right, stage left, right? All directors should know this. Do all your directors know this? Yes? Do all you actors know this? You better, right? Okay, let me explain about real quick, for those of you who don't know. There are stage directions, and how it is, it's built on the actor's point of view. So downstage, or let's say there's the camera there, okay? So the director says to me, can you come closer to the camera? Can you come downstage to the camera? Downstage means I come down towards the front of the camera or the front of the stage. Upstage is when I go up the stage, right? So stage right would mean this way, and stage left would be this way. And of course, center stage is here. All right, and then there's a whole bunch of things. There's a diagonal cross, stage right, stage left, all this. So when you're talking to your actors and you're rehearsing, and you have your chairs, your table set up or whatever, and there's a bookcase over here, and you want the actor to walk over to the table and pick up the chair, right? You could say, can you cross and pick up the stage right chair for me, please? And they know. As an actor, any actor should know that, okay, he means I cross down here and I pick up this chair, because that's what he just told me. As opposed to saying, can you walk over to the table, and then the table that's on that's closest to that vase right there, pick that chair up. Well, there was already too much said, right? And he's like, So you really should know, if you're going to direct or be an actor, the stage directions. Upstage, downstage, stage right, stage left, center. Okay, and I could give you a whole, which I'm not going to, there's countering, and there's upstaging, and there's three-quarter turn, there's a bunch of stuff that, all these actors know, but I'm not going to go into that because it's a little bit more, and it's more for stage anyway, but the upstage, downstage can work for film, especially when you're just rehearsing it and getting them into places and like that, okay? And if your actor doesn't know upstage and downstage, you hired the wrong actor. That's all I'm going to say. I'm serious. If they don't know what upstage means, I have no words to say for that, because they should know that. Okay, so now you're rehearsing. Okay, and they do a scene, and it's not quite what you were expecting. What are some things that you shouldn't say?
That was horrible.
Okay, that was horrible. Okay, anything else?
Cursing.
What?
Cursing.
Cursing, okay. What else shouldn't you say? You want something from them, But right now, all you can think of is a negative. So what you shouldn't say is that was horrible. You should say that was fucking horrible. That's even worse than horrible, right? What else should you say? Can you be bigger?
Better.
Can you be better, please? Can you be funnier? Okay? That means nothing to an actor. That means nothing to an actor, right? Now, what you could say is, that was really good energy. However, I'm not quite getting the emotion that I want from you. So can you just tone the anger down a bit and not be so, don't attack so much. Okay, great. You just gave the actor 2 verbs and an emotional quality. A toned down, non-attacking, non-aggressive moment. I can work with that. But if you just say, oh, can you just bring it down? That means, okay, bring down what? Okay, I'll just try out. Now you're having them guess. Now they're trying to guess what the director wants. And if you do it like that, after a while what's going to happen is the actor's going to get frustrated. And he's going to be worried now because he's like, oh my God, am I going to do it right? I don't know, I'm not quite sure. So you have to, you have to be very specific in your criticism to your actor when you're talking to them. That was good energy, but I didn't quite get that. Okay? Or you might say, you know what, I am not getting that relationship. And then what can you do? Let's say you're not getting the relationship. Cliff and Anthony are doing a scene together, right? And they're brothers and they're angry or something like that. And I'm just not getting something from you two for some reason. What is something that I as a director could say to Cliff or Anthony to make them think about something? What could I do? What do you think I could say? Anthony, have you always been angry at your brother? Now, he, the actor, has done research himself, so he knows. He could say, no. Well, here's the problem. I'm getting that you are. So if you haven't always, this is the first time you've been angry with him, can I see it like for a first time being angry with him that you've always loved? Because right now I'm getting that you're always angry with him all the time. Now the actor says, got it, okay, first time being angry, not the 100,000th time I've been angry. So you're giving, again, the actor, you're telling him, you're asking him a question, you're making him answer it, and then saying, can I please see that? So you're sort of manipulating the actor to see what you're not getting, and then making him decide how to give it to you. Right? Does that make sense to you guys? So you do that. You say, okay, so you say, now let's say they did a good scene. Now they did it really good. Okay, Anthony and Cliff did a great scene, right? What shouldn't I say still? What should I say?
You did great.
Yeah, you did great. Wonderful. Yeah, that's great. But if you're going to do the scene again, rehearse it again, what you could say is, Cliff, that was great. Great energy. Keep it up. Just remember, don't get bigger right now. Where you are emotionally is perfect. So just try to keep that emotion ride going, keep that roller coaster going, but don't let it get out of hand, because right now it's perfect. There. You just gave him a compliment and told him what not to do for the next rehearsal, for the next time you run the rehearsal. So he still can keep on working, as opposed to saying, that was good, let's do it again. Because what happens then? If you just say, oh yeah, that was good, let's do it again, what are you basically accomplishing?
Telling him it wasn't good.
Well, yes, but what else? You're going to get the same thing again. You're going to get the exact same scene again. Which is then, well, why rehearse it again? You already got it. Right? So, but what you want to do is you want to say, let's see if we can do it again. Right? Because an actor will always bring something new to a scene. They'll always discover something new, as long as it doesn't go beyond what you want as a director. Right? As long as it stays true to what you want. Okay, so now let's say that they're acting and you're not getting what you want. And we talked about this. here are some questions that you can do. So let's say Sylvester and Gombe, right? Okay, you're doing a scene. You're husband and wife, right? And you are having this great romantic dinner, and then what happens is Gombe actually lets you know that you had an affair. She caught you. She knows you had an affair. She found the stuff, and she's gonna call you out on it at this restaurant. Okay. Now you do the scene. You do this scene, and I kind of go, well, I don't quite. You didn't seem very threatened by this observation, and you didn't seem very angry about it. So what could I say to them to get that? What could I say to them to sort of like, as an actor or as a director, to get these actors to think and give me what I want? Okay, so I might say to this, Gombe, so I know you're in a restaurant, so why are you holding back? Why are you not yelling at him right now? You know he's having an affair. Why are you not yelling at him? And then Gombe, you might say what?
Oh, when I will go home, I will be.
When you go home, you'll yell at him, okay? And I'll say, all right, I understand that, but are you angry at him right now?
Yes.
You're very angry, right?
Very.
Have you been angrier before than this, or is this the angriest you ever been? Have you been angrier before?
Yeah.
You have?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so so him having an affair doesn't make you as angry as before, or are you angrier? Like, he's sleeping with some other girl who's 20 years old. Right? I'm feeding you some more details so you know, right?
Good food, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want you not to give a damn who's around, right? But
Just
same
music.
time, but I want the anger, right? But same time, there are people around. I need to have you have that intense feeling, but knowing that you have to keep that dignity because you can't really explode. But I want to feel that explosion coming out to him at that table. Okay? Right? Then I would go to Sylvester. I would say, Sylvester, have you ever lied to your wife before? And you would say,
Yes.
yes, okay. And I say, okay, so do you think she really knows?
No.
Okay, so what I need to do to get from you is, I don't want you to feel as guilty. I want you to actually deny it as it never happened, like she's crazy. I want you to talk to her like she's crazy, like she's like, honey, imagine that she does not understand English. Honey, I did, whatever. I want you to really talk to her like she's a kid who misunderstood something, right? That's what I want. Now, what happens is, that's how it starts off. And then where it goes, it can go somewhere else, right? But they have the initial idea of where it's going to start. And that's how you work with your actors when you're rehearsing, is you kind of give them those questions. I keep saying this because it's so important. You have to engage your actors so they feel like they're contributing somehow to the creation of this film or movie, theater, play, whatever, commercial. Commercial, like, hey, no. But okay, so obviously right now I'm using a context of plays that don't exist and aren't real, so the actors right now have a hard time knowing what I'm doing. But I'm trying to give you the idea of what you should be asking your actors, right? You're sort of like their acting coach in a way, okay? Now, real quick, what I also want to talk to you about there are terms that you should also know, a few terms, such as you might, okay, now you know the situation, right? Sylvester and Gombe, right? You guys know what we're talking about, right? So I go to Gombe and I say, Gombe, what do you want? Right? I don't know your character's name. Your character's name is Gombe. So I say, Gombe, what do you want? What do you want? I'm asking you. What do you want? In this scene, what do you want?
In the scene?
Yeah.
I want him to know that I'm very angry at him.
But what do you want? Okay, so you want to know if he's angry, but what do you want him to do about it?
To stop.
You want him to stop? Okay,
Yeah.
great. What do you want? I want him to stop.
Yeah.
Right? Because the actor knows these are things. Intentions, want, and need. Intention, I want him to stop. Obstacle, He denies that he's having an affair. Tactic, I'm going to yell. That's how an actor analyzes a script. Intention, obstacle, tactic. Right? So, if you're not getting it, you say to them, what do you want? And then they'll tell it. And then you say, okay, great. At least the actor now is thinking to himself, okay, now it's back in their head again. Because, you know, actors forget sometimes. I mean, I'm an actor and I forget sometimes what I want in the scene. You know, I mean, I've done it for 30 years and I still go, oh, shoot. That's right, what do I want? You know, I'll laugh, I'll kick myself going, of course, you know, and I go back and I kind of like remember and then I do it, okay? So, there's one is, what do you want? There's another one. Let's say I go to Sylvester and I say, okay, Sylvester, I want you to do this. I give him, we figure it out, and then all of a sudden I'm like looking at Sylvester and he's doing this. And I'm like, are you ready? And he's like, okay, almost, hold on. Okay, well, to me, that indicates what we call internalizing. Now, there's good internalizing and there's bad internalizing. Okay? Good internalizing is when the actor is at home and they're working and they kind of use their whatever method they want to use for their acting training to get where they need to go. And then when he comes on stage, I say, this is what I want. They have their button or whatever that they go right into it and then they do it. Bad internalizing is when they have to actually go on stage or it looks like they're struggling while they're acting. Like and how many of you have worked with actors who, when you're watching them, you feel like they're struggling, or they're like you can see them, you can see their head working, they're acting, you can see it in their thinking, right? Call internalizing. So if that's happening, you can say to them, look, don't internalize so much, okay? Just talk to them like a normal person, like it's someone, you know, and then give them an example. Talk to this person like it is the last person that you will ever love, and if they leave, you know, you're going to die. There you go. That's not going to happen in the script because we know in the next scene, you know, she kills him. But in this scene, we don't know that, right? In this scene, we don't know that, right? In this scene, I want it like this. You give them the as if, right? The magic as if you are this, or imagine, if you will, that he is this person, whatever. You put an image in their head, and they can use that image to talk to that person, right? You know, but what you don't want to do is spell everything out to them, right? You don't want to say, okay, here's the thing. You're mad at him, you're really upset, you don't want him to leave, just beg him, and then, you know, make him come back, just beg him. Because basically you're just giving to them, and it's like they're not even doing anything, right? You make them think, you make them do the work. Your job is to direct them and make them good. Their job is to bring what you want from these characters alive. Let them do their job, right? And you do that by talking to them like that. So you might say things like, you know, why are you moving at this moment? So they keep moving around for some reason. Why are you moving? Well, because I'm nervous. If you're nervous, well, find some other thing to do that's nervous, that does not involve moving around, right? Maybe you could tap your foot, or maybe you can just, like, you know, just be a little fidgety or something, but, you know. And actors who move around a lot when they're acting, that's also a sign of, like, they're, like, pretty new to acting, you know, because the character should only move when they have to move. That's why a character moves. It's not because the director told them. It's because, for instance, Martha moves. Why? She's either hitting on Nick, getting a drink, or playing cuddly-wuddly with her husband because she's trying to, like, make him do something. That's it. She doesn't move for any reason. She's not going to just wander around because she feels like it. There's always a reason why this character is moving, okay? So you should know that. And then, when they do give you a response, you know, the actor does, you listen to their response and you help them get there, right? You help them to get where you want to be. And they may have a question. Well, I'm not really sure, you know, why am I doing, you know, they might say, well, but why am I so angry at him? And, you know, if I go, well, you know, he's had an affair, and he's lying to you. Isn't that enough? And she's like, well, I don't understand why. I go, well, you need to think about it. How would you feel if, right? Then you go back to the magic if. How would you feel if this happened to you? Now you're throwing it back in their court. So they're not like they're not relying on you to give them all the answers, right? You always give them a little bit and then throw it back in their court. You also want to use terms like, if the scene's happening, and I go, guys, I'm not seeing that arc. I'm not getting that. I'm not seeing where the height of this action is happening. All of a sudden, it's kind of very plateau. It's very monotone in the scene, because you're always yelling and you're always going, I'm not doing it, right? And I'm not seeing any diversity. So can you try maybe this time, like just starting just with your temper a little bit, under, but then let it escalate somewhere in the middle of that scene. I want to see you, like, it just snap. I want to see you snap from, that's the last lie, right? I want to see that arc. See, now you're creating the arc. You're saying, here's where I want this arc to happen. Again, you're allowing them to, like, figure out how to snap and make it seem real, right? But you're telling them now, this is where I want the arc, because you're the director, right? You have to, the whole film is an arc, and every scene has an arc, whether it's big or small. There's going to be an arc in every scene, So, if you use things like internalizing or arc or what do you want, things like that. You want to use terms that are going to help them. Another thing you can do is during these rehearsals, at the early stages of the rehearsals, is you can actually have one-on-ones with your actors, where you can sit down with them and I can talk to Rob about his character. I say, okay, Rob, so you're the priest, and you actually broke your vows by getting married. You shouldn't have done that. No one else knows but you. I want to talk to you. How do you think your character is dealing? Now I'm talking to him one-on-one. No other actors around, so no other actor's going to judge him. And Rob might say to me, he might give me his answers. I go, oh, interesting. And why do you? And we're just talking about his character. And all this is doing is helping him understand his character more, and me understand how he sees his character. And together, we're going to come to an understanding. Right? And you do this with all your main actors. The actors that have very important roles. And that's going to, well, one, they're going to think, hey, this director listens to me. He's interested in how I approach this character. And two is, you, the director, are going to benefit because you might hear an idea you never thought of and go, that's brilliant. Right? That's brilliant. I never thought about that. He's unhappy being a priest. I never thought that didn't cross my mind for some reason, but he came up with it and it actually works. Right? So that's why you should have one-on-ones with your actors. So you can discuss with them and learn more about, and work on these characters together. You only need one-on-one. Okay, after that, and you start rehearsals, then you do what I've been doing. Talking to them, trying to get what they want. Or I might say to Rob, remember when we talked in our one-on-one, you talked about how he was feeling about being a priest? Can I see more of that, please? Now, the actors don't need to know what Rob talked to me about. That's not, he needs to know, right? So you should, and also just so you know, you should never talk to another actor about what an actor's motivation or character or reason for doing something is, because that totally, it denounces that character, that actor's work, and it makes it no longer a strong emotional thing. Okay, so you shouldn't say, if Dean's directing Rob with me, and Rob, whatever, Dean, you shouldn't come to me and say, now just so you know, Rob's character really is unhappy. He told me this. So just, because now what he's just did is he's weakened Rob's acting and character. Because now it's like, right? So you should never do that. Okay, never discuss with any actor about another character's reasons or anything like that. Okay, just so you know. Basic things you can. You can say Rob is married and he shouldn't have done it and he's still a priest. You don't tell them the reason why he did it, okay? one last thing that you can do, and this is still watering, right? This is all watering, guys. This is what you do in rehearsals, right? It's actually the biggest part of the process. You know, the research and the read through, it's nothing. It's what happens at the rehearsals, where the magic comes from, right? Where you see the interactions happening.